is the Levels Network. I am Justin Horo, normally joined by the Triple OG, Willie Mason, but this is a very special bonus episode for us this week at Levels Network. I've got two girls with me, Tarryn Aiken and Tiana Penitani. Firstly, girls, thanks for coming in. If you don't know how our podcast works normally with Mace, he's got the credentials and the credibility. I'm just the host. So I've got you two girls to come in and speak at the NRLW on behalf of Mace. So first and foremost, thanks for coming in.
No, thanks for having us. Stoked to be here alongside Taz. Big fan of the potty. So yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Can't wait to get into it.
All right, girls, I've got accomplishments, like I said, the credibility, the credentials, all out in front of me. Before we get into that, I want to thank our partners, BodyScience and Tab, for putting this on for us. They are the OGs of their industries, and we thank them for the partnership. All right, let's get into Tarryn Aiken. Firstly, Tarryn, before I get into the accomplishments, I was looking through the Rugby League project. Queensland number 6, been killing it for Queensland for the last couple of years. Born in Gosford, New South Wales.
Yeah,
Run
what's
me
doing
through that.
So my parents decided to have me in North Gosford Hospital. I was actually, grew up for a little bit on the Central Coast, but moved up to Tweed when I was 7 and grew up supporting Queensland. So, I just wanted to play for Queensland. I had the women's game, I don't know how, but got a bit of a loophole and I could play for Queensland because I played through their grades in the state competition. And, played for Queensland. And it was pretty ironic, actually. Greg Inglis did our jersey presentation my first year.
The great GI.
It was actually pretty cool.
Well, I'm the same. I'm Kiwi, but I grew up in New South Wales and I sort of go for Queensland anyway.
Yeah,
so sorry,
standard.
T.
New Zealand's in Queensland, isn't it?
100%. Tarryn, was there a decision to be made? Like, did New South Wales hit you up when you were sort of, once you hit the scene and were playing for the Broncos, did they hit you up and go, we want you for New South Wales as well?
Yeah, so they did. But I had already been in the Queensland camps. So
like the junior systems and that as well. Do they have like under 19s at that time?
They didn't. They didn't have under 19s or anything. So I was just straight into the women's camps. And I think the year after, I'd already trained with the Queensland women's squad the year after they came in, and I was a bit like I'm in an iron because I was like, I didn't know if I'd regret it or not, but it was pretty easy in the end because I grew up supporting them and that's who I wanted to play for.
Beautiful. It's worked out well for you. So we'll get into those accomplishments. So a 2-time premiership winner for the Brisbane Broncos, 4 seasons there, so all 4 seasons. Made the move to the Sydney Roosters this year in 2023. 5 appearances for Queensland, 3 tries, and I think I've been on all 3 of them. 4 appearances for Australia at the World Cup last year, including obviously the win in the final, 5 tries in the World Cup as well. And also, happy birthday for last Friday.
Thank you.
Tiana Penitani, 2 seasons with the Dragons, 2 seasons with the Eels, quad injury that stuffed it for you last year playing in the GF. Made the move to Cronulla in 2023, 5 appearances for New South Wales, 3 tries. I like you two girls as a combo whenever I'm putting on a same game multi. Represented Australia in the 9s World Cup, finishing as the top try scorer in that competition. Captained Australia's 7s to a gold medal in the Youth Olympics. The youngest ever to represent a senior Australian rugby team at any format in the 7s or 15s. Is that still holding now?
I think it is. Yeah, you've done your research.
Yep, so what an accomplishment. And just awarded, I suppose, or honoured to be the captain of the Sharks 2023 team.
Yeah, definitely honoured. It's weird saying that, this is the first season of the Sharks NRLW. I've played for them since 2019 in our pre-season comp, which is the Harvey Norman Premiership. The club means a lot to me, and I've been part of the club for, many years now. So it's nice to be able to play at the top level for them, and so keen to rip in.
Because I've obviously, been following the NRLW now for about 2 or 3 years since I got back into Australia, and it's just gone from strength to strength. And I would always hear that there was so many strong juniors from the Cronulla area that either end up playing for the Dragons potentially or at other clubs. So it's good to see Cronulla in, and you must be excited for the season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think something that I'm really proud of is the fact that we have been able to retain all of those local girls. So you got like Tale Holmes, Quincy Dodd, Tegan Dimmick, all of those girls that have played their junior footy or started at Cronulla that all kind of had to disperse into other NRLW teams. And now that we've got 10 teams, a lot of those girls have been able to come back home and represent, a club that's been a really big part of their career. So yeah, it's exciting, and we've got round one this week, so can't wait.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. We'll get to more about the reasons for both you girls to switch. Also, just want to give a shout out to the Pacific Sports Show, which you're on ABC with Sam Wykes. I know Sammy well, grew up Western Sydney, just around the corner from Sammy. He was a couple of years younger than me, and he's been doing great things in the space, sort of in and around rugby union as well. So
100%.
You enjoying that?
Yeah.
Enjoying doing the show with Sammy?
I do love it. That's like our little baby at ABC. So Big Sammy, my co-host, kind of makes my job easy. But no, I love what the show's about. We are dedicated to solely sharing the stories of the wonderful Pacific talent we have here in Australia and over in the islands. And, it's a show that is really needed. You look at the stats and, half of the NRL and half of Super Rugby are all athletes from Pacifica heritage. So,
and it's only getting stronger.
And it's only getting stronger. So, it's something that I'm really proud of. And I love learning about not only, your footy dominant stories, but, the likes of weightlifting and outrigging and, all those weird and wonderful sports that we get to cover in that show as well. So love it.
All right, we're doing great work. Also doing great work, did some research actually with a couple of the girls that I wasn't as familiar with from rugby union. Maddie Bartlett and Adam Blair, they're doing a show. Shout out to Across the Ditch over there in New Zealand. Maddie's actually hilarious. I've been watching a couple of episodes in preparation for this, so she's doing a great job. Then you've got Corbin Baxter and Kiana Takarangi that just had you on as a guest on their one, Kicking It podcast. And then the girls, they're killing it. You've got Millie Boyle and Keely Davis.
Up front.
That's the Upfront podcast, and I've seen a few clips of those through Jammer at the buy round. The girls they're going to take over the space.
Oh, they're so
I don't think there'll be a space for us anymore.
You know what? Like, I don't know how you feel at training, Taz, but when we get into Origin camp, one of my favourite pastimes is to listen to those two either go at it or just have yarns and like pick each other's brains. I'm like, they're just so funny, like just together. They're hilarious. So they must just chew you off at training.
They're so good, and they do not shut up. So podcast is great for them too.
Well, they clipped up a couple recently with Keely's story about calling 000 the other day. So I'd imagine, so they're teammates of yours now, Taz. Are they going to have guests on at some point? Do you know the how the show's going to work? Just like obviously Tiana going on with Corbin and Kiana. So are they going to have guests on? Do you know at this point? Or is this them two just talking dribble?
Yeah, I would say it'd just probably be them two talking dribble. But yeah, they're great entertainment and provide plenty of laughs around training.
Oh, awesome. Both those two girls also formed the big part of the Origin that you girls both played in. Yeah. We were up there for Townsville to watch the game and the celebrations as well. But let's just get into the nitty-gritty of it, right? Queensland win game 1 by 8 points. New South Wales win game 2 by 6 in the end, was it? There needs to be a decider, doesn't there?
Yeah, 100%. Like when you look at rugby league, I don't think I've ever seen a competition that's been decided by an aggregate point system. So it was bizarre for us, even, being in the game and after the game, we're kind of shaking hands to each other and we were just like, oh, congrats. But then Queensland's like, oh yeah, congrats to you guys too. It was so anticlimactic. Yeah. Like that's just so far away from what Origin's about. It's bizarre that there wasn't a decider. I mean, we got into camp and it was the week that we got into to camp game 1 that they had told us they'd had a meeting that week and had changed it.
I've seen that. I've seen the chat around that.
Because originally, I mean, it would have worked out really well for New South Wales, but originally it was if Queensland didn't win both games, then New South Wales would retain the shield.
So that's what happens in the Bledisloe Cup.
Yes, that's like the Bledisloe, exactly. Yeah. So to find out, like as we went into camp, that actually it's going to be a points aggregate. We were like, what? And then what happens if the points aggregate's the same? They were like, oh, it's the amount of tries that you've scored. And the list just went on. And it was a bit bizarre to think that there was an actual board meeting and someone had come up with that decision. And I think moving forward, the bottom line is that we need 3 games. Yeah,
for sure. Tarryn and I, obviously you girls come in celebrating. You had the shield in the Mad Cow. But how did it feel like straight after the game? You just lost the game, but you'd won the series in a 2-game series.
Yeah, after the game, it was a really weird feeling. I think at the start we were a bit gutted that we had lost, especially like how close it was and like it was the last minute try. So we're a bit gutted, but then like we're shaking hands and everyone's like, as Tiana said, like congrats. And then I think like once we got the shield and that, everyone was just like, oh well, like we've still won. Yeah. Not how you want to win an Origin series, but we've still won. Let's celebrate. And hopefully with this ending, like the only good thing to come out of it is you get a 3-game series.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wrote down in my notes. Like I think it was the perfect way to finish for everyone to sit back and go, all right, that hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Like the competition of game 2 in particular was great. And a few things around it, right? So if you were going to do that system, I suggested this with me and Lukey and Mace were watching the game. So the girls had a better understanding where the score was at. Maybe you should even start it at 18-10. So, you know, like if the points had gone up on aggregate, you would have had a better indication of where like the game was at. Because I remember there was at one point with like a minute and a half to go, Jessie was kicking the goal and she's sort of like taking her time. And I was going, because she's trying to get the kick, right?
Yeah.
And there's no indication of where she's at aggregately. So I was like, come on, kick the ball. So that was one suggestion if you were to stay at that. So that's where I think they stuffed up there. But so when we started talking about this, we talked about it straight away on our podcast after. And we're trying to, like, we were unsure of the reasons why. One person messaged in and said, what if it was a dead rubber? So that's maybe one concern that the NRL had. Mm-hmm. So I've got this idea and I'm just going to float it by you girls. Yep. So you did the standalone game, most attendance that you've ever had at a crowd for Townsville, it was pumping, right? Parramatta was good considering that you girls hadn't even done a pre-season by that point as well and there was hardly any training. So my suggestion is 3 games for sure. Queensland, New South Wales at home and away every year, and the game 3, always put it with game 3 and match it with the men.
So that's what I say.
Do you like that?
Yeah, because like when you look at it from like a logistical point of view and like if people are concerned about how much it actually costs to put on a game, we were like, there's this narrative that we as the female players don't want to be played as a curtain raiser or anything like that. I don't know who has been spoken to, but a lot of us say we would froth the opportunity to play like an opener to a men's game.
Mace will be stoked because he's been talking about that for a while.
100%. And like we would love the opportunity to do that, and especially if it was, you know, if there were those conversations around like it's going to cost a lot of money and the women's game's not bringing in that revenue and whatnot, then it's not really going to cost much more if you just put us, you know, as an opener to one of the men's games. You've got, you know, like a sellout crowd already. The fans are there, and it would just be sick to be able to play in front of tens of thousands of people. Like we would love it as players.
Yeah, awesome. Sure. Tarryn, like, yes, going back to you. So the idea of that too is you still get your home and away games, right? Yeah. And it's you use girls as standalones on game 1 and 2. Yeah. Just for instance, it does go Queensland or New South Wales go 2-0, and they had, I think in the men's game they had 75,000 or whatever for a dead rubber, regardless. So if it was a dead rubber, or potentially even better, if both games were going to a decider where you could build it together, get together with the men. Tarryn, I'll go to you on this one. Imagine getting together with like Munster and promoting the game. Just say, for instance, if it was at Suncorp or even if it was at a core, but you get together, the boys and girls were going to go for the Queensland dominance.
Yeah, for sure. Like, that'd be awesome, like to play in front of the men's, and especially a decider. Like imagine men's and women's decider at Suncorp Stadium. Like that would, it's like what dreams are made of. So it'd be awesome, and it's an awesome way to do it as well, logistically, if that's what the NRL are concerned about. Yeah,
because I reckon if you girls played before, if there was both the decider, I'd say 95% of the crowd that was going to be there for the men's would rock up for the girls for sure, or the women's, sorry.
100%. Yeah.
So that's my little proposal. Glad you both agree with it. Let's move on to the change of scenery for both you girls. We'll start off with you, Tarryn. Pretty big. You've been at the Broncos now for 4 years, won a couple of premierships, like I said at the start. Why now? Why now the Roosters? And actually, let's just get to another part of it as well. But why did you decide to leave the Broncos after 4 years, and why the Roosters?
Yeah, well, I'd been at the Broncos for 4 years since I came into the scene, really. But I just felt like it was a time for a change. I don't know. I just wanted something different, wanted something new, and the opportunity at the Roosters really excited me from the moment I went down there and met all the people there. I was like, this is it. Like, I want to be here and I want to play for this club. And it was sad and it was hard to leave the Bronx and all my friends there. But at the same time, I just thought it was time to do something different, do something new and exciting.
And you're playing them? Round
one,
first round.
Yeah,
so you were saying just before we got in here that Shanae
Yeah, Sinead.
When you left camp, she let you know straight away you're going to see each other?
My goodbye from Sinead was see you on the sunny coast. So, yeah, no, it'll be my first time playing against a lot of those girls, but glad to get it over and done with first, and it'll be an exciting game on.
Awesome. Tiana, same question. Yours was a little bit later, was it? Like sort of after, were you contracted to Parramatta before? And then you sort of, obviously you talked about, you know, growing up in the area or in and around the area, that meant a lot to you. So was that a big part of your decision?
Yeah, definitely. There were like a few different reasons. But initially when I'd signed the 2-year with Parramatta, it was like a 2-year marquee contract.
Yep.
And that was prior to expansion. So I think everything else was kind of void, like null and void from the previous contracts, except for the marquee. There was, I think, 2 marquee contracts in the whole of the NRLW. So
you had one of them.
I had one of them, but then that kind of like tied me into Para. So kind of had a meeting with them, and we kind of just had to work through it back and forth for a few months, which was, it was a bit tricky to navigate at times, but really grateful that they kind of came to the table. And for me, it was like, I live in Engadine, which is like bottom of the Sutherland Shire on the way to Wollongong. And, you know, there's quite a few different things. I wear a few different hats through the week. Like I work multiple jobs, and my mum's been away for like nearly half the year just with her work. So I kind of inherited that role at home as mum, looking after my 2 younger siblings, like in particular. And it was just a lot on my plate, and having to commute like an hour and 45 to training at Para like 4 or 5 days a week was going to be a really tough ask for me. And there wasn't really any other club that I would go to other than Cronulla. You know, Cronulla's has been home to me in my like adult rugby league career. And so that was kind of hard to ask that from Parramatta, who were a little bit reluctant at first to kind of let me go, but I think they kind of saw where I was coming from, and then eventually let me go. But I'm really I'm stoked to be at Cronulla. I feel so at home there, and I really buy into what Tony Herman, our coach, is all about, and the style of footy that he coaches, and the group of girls that we've got there is it's exciting. It's really homey.
Lukey was disappointed. Lukey's a big Parramatta fan. I think he told you at the Mad Cow. You would have seen him around the traps at Parramatta. Girl, you talked a little bit about the negotiation. You're a marquee player. We'll just stay with you, Tiana, on this one. I was going through and I was looking at some of the contracts, right? So we'll get to Knights of the first team. I'm looking at Georgia Roach, 5-year contract. Yeah. This is the first time that you girls have been able to sign contracts, apart from the marquee players, for an extended period of time. How have you enjoyed that process? Yours is a little bit different. I suppose I'll be able to ask Tarryn after this, but how have the girls handled that process, and then obviously what's come with the expansion of the competition?
They've been great. You know, for us in the last 4 years, we've been on like 3-4 month contracts, which doesn't give the players any kind of job security. You know, you could play in the preseason comp, whether it's the BMD Cup up in Queensland or Harvey Norman in New South Wales, get injured and have no protection, and there goes your NRLW contract. You know, so for the players moving forward, and I know this ties in with the CBA negotiations at the moment as well, but for us it's just about like security and being able to stay at a club and know that you're looked after, and moving forward, and pushing the growth of the women's game. I think that's so important, and the girls have navigated it really well. You know, like they've taken their opportunities. They've had a bigger window to negotiate rather than kind of being offered 2 weeks before your start date, and you're like, here you go, here's your offer, take it or leave it. They had like a good 3-month block to be able to go back and forth, and a lot of the girls have player agents now, which is great to see, like them being represented fairly. So I think with expansion, it's been the best thing to come out of it is the opportunity to sign multi-year deals. And like I said, the biggest thing is just that security and being able to know that you're looked after. Yeah.
On to you, Tarryn. Queensland number 6, I'd imagine, and Australia number 6 in the final. Georgia Roach gets a 5-year deal, which we'll talk about, like I said, at the Knights. Only the 1 year at the Roosters. Was there a reason behind that? Because I imagine most teams would have been trying to get you or lock you in for longer than that.
Yeah, well, I lived in Tweed my whole life. Wasn't sure how I'd go living in Sydney, but I'm really enjoying it. So that was more my thoughts behind the 1 year, being away from my family, big homebody, and really love my family and being around them. So I just wasn't sure how I'd go away from home. So I just wanted to do the 1 year, which is obviously it's good being able to do the multi-years for girls now and have the security. But I just wanted to do the 1 year and make sure I survive Sydney. Yeah, well, I only had 1 year deals, but it wasn't because it wasn't my choice. So I was almost like the NRLW player every year.
and I just was unable to get that 2-year deal. All right, girls, the expansion from 6 to 10 teams. Obviously, a lot of pros, Tarryn, which we talked about before. Is there anything? Is there any concerns with it at all going from 6 to 10? Because I thought the quality last year was great. And you're still building into this competition. You've got the competition in Harvey Norman and the competition in Queensland.
BMD.
BMD.
Yeah.
Is it too big a jump too early, do you think? Or are you happy with, is 10 teams the right number?
I would say 8 would have been. 2 more. I think we could have done 2 more quite comfortably. I think the extra 2 is probably a bit of a stretch.
Bit of a strain on like the coaching and recruitment, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think the squad depth, like injury-wise and that later in the season, I think that's where we're going to struggle the most, and to keep the quality and like tightness of the games. Like last year, the whole season, like every game was pretty close. So I think that's where the difference will be this year round.
Yeah, and same with you. Obviously, plenty of positives, right?
Yeah.
I was just looking at it and how it's been growing and where the quality of it was last year. Any other concerns with the 6 to 10, or is that sort of the main?
I think that's the main one. I think like the positives are the fact that there is such a bigger outreach. You've got North Queensland Cowboys and like all of those girls that get to stay up there and represent that that catchment. And you've got Canberra, and then you've got Tigers and Cronulla, like 2 more Sydney teams. But I think exactly what Taz said. Like the depth is probably the most concerning thing. Like it's only been a few years since we've implemented as a game pathways from 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s. I would love to see an under 21s for the women, because I think bringing our Tasha Gale girls in under 19s, like a hop, skip and a jump into NRLW, like some of them are still a little bit off the pace, even the superstars in their age group. So
there's one in your team, right? Cronulla, we'll get to her.
Yeah, definitely. So I think some of those, those little tweaks could be made to like help strengthen the pathways, but just 8 would have been perfect, where you've got that depth within the squad, because come mid-season, hopefully not too many injuries, but that's the nature of the game, right? So if there are quite a lot of injuries, I think we'll really see some squads be tested in terms of the quality of footy, and hopefully that doesn't have a negative impact on the product that we can produce.
You obviously come from rugby in your background. I remember when I was at Manly, you were at the Sevens back in the day and made that transition. I've seen that there's been a couple of high-profile rugby girls that have come over. I guess that's a pro, right? Like the competition's becoming strong. You've got some pretty big names now that have come over from New Zealand Rugby Union off the back of what Gail Broughton did last year. She was outstanding for you girls. And then obviously, I've mentioned her a couple of times now, Georgia Roach over from the Super League. She was, I think, the inaugural Woman of Steel over there. So I think it shows in a way like how popular the NRLW is getting, because you're getting some pretty big names over the last couple of years. Yeah,
for sure. And just the exposure and like how much the fans get around the women's game and how well it's broadcasted, I think is what is the enticement factor. And, you look at for example, you look at the Aussie Women's Sevens team, right? And like no one hears about them and like how well they're doing, and, they're world champions, and it's just kind of like a little post on social media. Whereas like over here along the East Coast, like people love rugby league and there's so much exposure, even for brand awareness, like brand exposure. So I think that is definitely enticement for those girls to cross codes. But you mentioned it, like the likes of Niall Williams, Sunny Bill's sister, and then you've got Tyler Nathan Wong, who's Olympic gold medalist, and Emma Tonegado, who's my Sharkies teammate, who's been around for a couple of years now.
She was there in the Sevens back in the day.
She was, yeah. So her and I were, it was me, her, Brookie Anderson, Vani Politi, Charlotte Caslick, those girls. We were like the next gen girls that were signed fresh out of high school. So we've seen a lot of those girls transition over and come over to league, which is, I think that's a really big positive, is just like the growth of the game's attracting these big names, which is only going to, really benefit the quality of the game.
One of the parts you mentioned there, it's not only just the women's, like with regards to what you're talking about with the Sevens and how successful they've been, it's just rugby union and in a whole. Like I ran into the Wallabies the other night in Manly while we're doing content for the Cowboys, North Queensland Cowboys. And I know they just started a podcast. I think Drew Mitchell, there's not really anyone too dominant in the space over here, I think, that can help out with the rugby union game, because we've talked about it on our show before, about even like with regards to the men's, just like the women's, more of these sorts of shows really help out with the branding and pushing rugby union. Sort of got a little bit off topic there, but I just think not only just with the girls, and you'd know better doing your show with Sam, right? And his rugby union background. So I think that plays into it, and I have a feeling we're going to probably get more women's coming over from the rugby union for sure in the next couple of years.
Especially after 2024 Olympics in Paris, there's a lot of them. Like I know I was chatting to Tyler Nathan Wong the other day when we were doing some content stuff, and she was saying that like when like a lot of her teammates found out that she'd signed, they were like kicking themselves. They were like, oh, we should have jumped on board and like gone over now. So I know there's a lot of chat around those Sevens girls, particularly both from Australia and New Zealand, wanting to make the change after the next Olympics. So yeah, watch this space. There'll be a big influx of like high profile athletes coming, I think.
Yeah, and watch that space. If you haven't heard of her, Sowie has got her in the predicted lineup. Tyler's going to be the 6, and Sowie is super excited. I had a chat to him when we're at Origin 1. I was watching Origin 1 and we did a preview before that. All right, let's girls get into the team. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, I've just gone on the NRL website. Yep. There's predicted lineups. I've got recruits of note for every team, and then I'm going to get you girls to help me out with a player to watch. So someone that's either maybe a little bit younger that we'd never heard of, or someone who's been slept on, been around for a minute. She sort of hasn't been part of the Origin arena where, you know, that's been all the rage over the last couple of years. So ready to get into it?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, the first team, we just sort of, it was in no particular order, but we got the Knights up first. They are paying $6 to win the competition with our friends, our partners at the tab. And the predicted lineup, if you help me out with some of these names if I get them wrong too, girls. Tamika Upton, Jasmine Strange, Shanice Parker, Falila Kia, Tamara Liati, Georgia Roach, Jessie Southwell, Caitlin Johnson, Olivia Higgins, Taylor Predabon, Lation Albert Jones, Yasmin Clydesdale, Hannah Southwell will be back from the ACL, hopefully. Nita Maynard, Kayla Romanik, Rima Butler, and Simone Carpani.
Yeah.
How did I go? All those names?
Yeah, pretty
correct?
good.
Well, I know like 80% of the squads, but there are a few.
Some of them I don't even know.
Yeah,
so
okay,
I think
sweet. So we're going to find out together anyway. I mentioned her before. Taz was speaking about a recruit of note. Georgia Roach, a 5-year deal. She comes over from playing at Leeds. She started off at Cass, so she's a Yorkshire lass. She sort of, I was watching some highlights on her before the show. She sort of looks a little bit like Jessie Southwell, like a sort of
she's stocky,
a little stocky, nuggety half who obviously likes to run. So how do you think those two girls are going to combine together? Did you play against England in the World Cup as well?
No, we didn't play. We obviously watched them pretty closely, but we never played against them. But
okay.
Yeah, in the World Cup, she looked really good. Like their stronger half, and she's obviously went really well in the Super League. So it'll be interesting to see how she goes. And obviously with Jessie, I think Jessie will do most of the controlling of the game, and which will help her out, especially coming into the NRLW for the first season. Yeah,
and then obviously the return of Hannah, who did her ACL in the first game, Tiana. So she's going to be big coming back. Yeah. There's some players. Obviously, the big one is Millie. Millie's moved on. She's playing with you now, Taz. But when I look through that, I've highlighted a couple of names. Obviously, Tamika Upton, ex-team out of yours, Taz. Jessie Southwell, who was the young gun of last season. Caitlin Johnson. She missed Origin. Was she injured to miss Origin?
Yeah, she was injured. Yeah, because she was in such good form. And there was like a highlight of her from last year's Origin, like running off the back fence, best ever. So she's huge for them. Like she brings so much muscle in the middle, and we really missed her in Origin.
So what about a player to watch? So someone that we might not have heard of.
Yeah, probably Rima Butler. She comes from the Parramatta Eels, and she's a big body, but she's so versatile. You can throw her in the centres, back row, middle. So she kind of had a couple of opportunities last year. She was kind of on the fringe there in our Eels squad, and when she did come on, she made such a big impact, and especially if you kind of throw her in the back line, and she's just that big strong body running over the back. So she's definitely someone to watch. But someone I think that's been there or thereabouts for so long is Scucky, Shanice Parker. You know, she's had a stint at Origin, but I feel like she's a little bit slept on. Yep. She's amazing. Such a strong athlete. So I feel like she'll have a good season too.
Yep. So with both you girls, you're in very strong lineups. We'll get to the odds. Knights, they won the competition last year. They're going to be very hard to beat again, Tarryn.
Yeah, for sure. I think they've obviously lost Millie, but Hannah Southwell did her ACL in round 1, so she's going to be a big in for them, and they've retained most of their big players apart from Millie. They've still got Tamika,
Was
Jessie,
Romy there last year as well?
Yeah. Romy's left.
She's gone up to the Bronx, hasn't she?
Yeah, but I think they've kept a very cool group, and they're going to obviously be really strong and build on what they did last year.
All right. moving on to the Roosters, $3.25 favourites, stacked. I've highlighted so many names here. Kicking off with Corbin Baxter, a good friend of yours and a friend of ours. Actually, she used to come on the show back in the day with me when I was doing the NRLW preview stuff. Corbin Baxter is back after having a second bub.
Yes.
Second bub. Yep. Bridie Parker, the stack centres and Jess Surgis and Isabella Kelly, Jamie Frezard, Tarryn Aiken, Jocelyn Kelleher, Millie Boyle, Keely Davis, Maya Hill Moana, Olivia Koenig, Amber Hoare, Keely Joseph, Jordan Burton, Otessa Pule, Tiela Fotu Moala, and Kolu Sipani Hopewadi.
Yeah.
How'd I go?
Pretty stacked there, Taz.
How'd I go, girls? Taz, I started laughing as I got to 13 because that team is stacked. Well and truly deserve to be favourites at the tab. How's it all been going, though? So you get to miss out on a bit of pre-season, you girls, when you're in Origin camp.
Yeah,
But how's it been in the first sort of couple of weeks since you've been back from that?
Yeah, it's been really good. We've been building really strongly, and I think the group, we're really tight-knit, and we're really enjoying playing footy together, training together, and yeah, we know we're the favourites, and we know there's a lot of talk around us, but
embracing it.
Yeah, we're just embracing it. Like it's probably just going to come with the Roosters tag, to be honest. But yeah.
All right, so let me fill me in a little bit with Jocelyn Kelleher, who's predicted to be your halves partner.
Yeah.
You leave arguably one of the greatest NRLW players of all time, Ali Brigginshaw, who you partnered with for a long time. How's that combination been, and what's it going to be like a little bit different not being with Ali? I sort of noticed that you girls have been sort of a 50-50 anyway up there at Brisbane and Queensland of late. But how's it been? Are you going to try to take the reins with this team, even though you're new, or how do you see that combination working?
No, we've been building very nicely together. Josh, she's played a few games in the halves. I think she started in the halves in 2021 season, and she's obviously played a lot with the girls in the Central Coast. And yeah, I think she's obviously one to watch, getting the number 7 jersey, and she's a lot more experienced now than when she played in the halves last time, and she's really exciting, got a good running game, good kicking game, and good ball playing game, so she's a bit of an all-round talent.
All right, what about a player to watch? Someone that's sort of a little bit slept on, or a younger girl in your squad that you're really been impressed by?
There's a few, but I'm probably going to go Pani Hopewade. She played in the under-19s Origin. I could not believe she was only under-19s, and I seen her name on the team list. I was like, what? Yeah, she's a beast, and she's really good. So I'm excited to see her play. It's
a strong last name. So is she part of the Hopewadi gang?
Is, yeah,
all
she's
right,
a Hopewadi.
Sweet. Yeah. So looking forward to that. I'll go to you on this one, Tiana. $3.25 favourites, deservedly so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you look at their lineup.
Oh, sorry, Tiana. Did I say Tiana then?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You look at their lineup and they're stacked. And I think that speaks volumes of what the Roosters are doing as a club as well to attract those kind of players. The likes of yourself, Taz, coming down from the Broncos, and then you've got like Centres of the Year, Jess and Ears, you've got Prop of the Year, Millie Boyle, you've got Hooker of the Year, Keely Davis. So, you've got some great leaders and a lot of experience in the team. So, I guess, wear the target on your back proud.
How good. You start coming for the favourites. So I'll sort of go back to what I was talking about before. Like, when the process started, did it all was there a date set and then they just went, everyone at the Roosters? Because we were doing stuff with Sal, and Sal was like, this is before everything started, the negotiations started, he goes, the Roosters are going to be stacked. So how quickly did it all happen with the process? Like, as soon as the first date was ready, were the managers just on it and sorting out?
I honestly think it was prior, to be honest. Like, people, because you're playing at Harvey Norman level, which is the equivalent of New South Wales Cup for the boys.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of already playing in clubs, and managers are putting the feelers out, and coaches are starting to talk to players. So it was, I think, unofficially, it was well before the signing window actually opened. So then when the contracts or the term sheet kind of came through and all the contracts were given, everyone was already on the pen on the dotted line. So I think there was a big few months stint where everyone was kind of having a chat to different clubs and coaches and whatnot.
And you sort of had an idea what the salary cap must have been like as well, Tarryn?
I think there was a period of time where we sort of knew what was happening, but you couldn't sign or you didn't know for sure. I'm not too sure, but there was negotiations going on for months behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And
sorry if I ruined it for the girls in tampering or whatever it is.
I don't know. With the CBA, it was obviously really hard and I think it changed a couple of times, what the salary cap was going to be and how they were going to do marquee players.
Yeah.
But so by the time you could actually sign, everyone was already done, sold. Well, most people were already done, sold.
Roosters were done earlier than most, I think.
It was honestly like a free-for-all. Like it was so intense. Like
it was the most crazy like off contract period. Like Tiana said before, like previous years you had like a month or 2 weeks. Like last year, because we had the short turnaround, you had like 2 weeks.
You literally had 2
weeks. It was like the most stressful time of your life. You're like, what is going on? Whereas this year, you had plenty of time and but you just didn't know what the
I'll tell you what, you talked about it before, like a lot of the girls have got representation and management. It's a good space to get in now. If you're a manager,
100%.
Getting on with the girls. Like, are you with Pacific?
Yeah, I'm with George Gazelle, like under Gavin and Chris Orr there,
So I'd imagine Gavin and Chris would have been on the phone straight away, if not earlier. All right, let's get into the Titans. We spoke about it a bit before. Vani Polite, Emily Bass, Jamie Chapman, Niall Williams, Karina Brown, Tali Fuimoano, Shante Kiria Ratu, Jessica Elliston, Lauren Brown, Shannon Martor, Shaylee Bent, Zara Canfield, Georgia Hale, Brittany Brayley-Nati, Steph Hancock, the OG, Caitlin Phillips, and Laker Clark. I think this team is an undercover like threat when I was going through the lineup. They're my smoky. They're $9 at the tab, by the way, if I didn't say that. Recruits of note, obviously. Niall Williams is Sonny Bill's sister, for those not familiar. Shaylee Bent and Talia Fuimoano come up from the Dragons. And Jamie Chapman, obviously, is an Origin player. So, Tarryn, we just talked, I think both agree that this is a team that's going to cause some drama this year in the NRLW. Who's the player to watch, though, out of those names?
Well, player to watch, I think big recruits for him would be Niall and Chapo. Like, they're going to be great. It's going to be really good to see Niall over from Sevens, and Chapo's just she's a freak. So really excited to see them. But the young guns, the Titans are really good. They developed like a junior system before they even had an NRLW system. So they've got a few young guns coming through. They got Shante Ratu at number 7 or Sienna Lafipo, who might play 7 too. I'm not sure who will get the nod there. But they both be really good. And also Destiny, I don't know if she'll start in there, but she's a fullback and she's really good too. They all played under 19s Origin. I think they had 7 in the 19s Origin. So.
Yeah, they're a team to watch out for, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
So with that recruitment system, were you like in and around the area? Did Titans ever come knocking like early on back in the day?
Yeah, obviously being from Tweed, Gold Coast area, but
The Bronx was flying, winning premierships. Easy decision. It worked out well for you anyway, Tarryn. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Raiders, and they are $15 from our partners at the tab. Uppy Nichols heads to the nation's capital with Madison Bartlett, who I mentioned before, doing great things on her show over there with Adam Blair. Shael Robbins-Reti, Felice Quinlan, Shakaya Tungai, Ash Quinlan, Zahara Tamara, Sophie Hollyman, Shante Tamara, Tomiya Kelly Signs, Holly Mace Dodd, Melissa Soliola, Samaima Taufa is a big signing, Emma Barnes, Olivia Ingram, Grace Kemp, and Keti Hitina Matua.
Nailed it.
Got it? Did I get it?
I think
you got the Pacific show with you. I need you to help, honestly. So for people that don't know, if you're watching this show, I'm awful with all the men's names as well, so I equally stuff them up. Ex-teammate of yours, Samaima Taufa. She's co-captain with you last year at Parramatta.
Yeah.
She's obviously a great buy for the Canberra Raiders.
Yeah, she really is. I think she for anyone that knows Samaima, who's either played against or alongside her, she just exudes professionalism. Like, she's the ultimate professional. Like, we're in Origin camp and it's captain's run and she's in there doing like a 5K row just to kind of, like get a little bit of a blowout in the lungs. So, she's unreal, and she's at the helm there under Darren Borthwick, who was the assistant coach at Parramatta. So I think, they've worked alongside each other for like 10 years or something at the Mounties in Sydney. So there's a good partnership there in terms of leadership. And then I think the biggest recruits for me are Z Tamara, obviously, like Origin half, and Ash Quinlan as well. I reckon she's going to be like my highlight, like one to watch. She's got a touch background. She was a freak at touch, and she came over, had a debut season at the EELS last year, and really like cemented her spot in the 6 jersey.
She's really good, wasn't she?
She's really good, like real classy player. So yeah, they're ones to watch. And then you've got the Kiwi girls, Uppy Nichols. I think she's so underrated. underrated. She's a Kiwi Ferns fullback, and she's fantastic. Like, she's everywhere. So her work rate's super high. And then Maddie Bartlett as well, who's a strong finisher. So they've got some, I reckon they're another, like them and the Titans for me are just like a fly under the radar kind of teams. So
yeah, because I reckon, look, we talked about the pros and cons before there, but there's some teams, because it's like it'll even out a little bit more by the back end of the season. If you can keep basically your 1 to 13, if you can stay relatively healthy, then you can make a real run at this competition, can't you?
Yeah, 100%.
And Ash Quinlan, she played touch with my brothers growing up. Hill sports girl, so I've known about Ash. As soon as she hit the scene last year with you girls, she's showing some nice cutout, nice early ball to you.
Yeah.
And I think she really linked well with Gail, really opened up Gail at the back end of the season.
Yeah, she's just that like instinctive, similar to Utah's, just like instinctive, eyes up kind of footy player, and that's that touch background too, you know, like the kind of footy that you can't teach, like you just develop it over like, you know, your childhood and stuff. So she's that kind of player for them. So she'll be great. Her and Z linking up in the halves will be really interesting.
Good combination, right?
Good combos.
Good call, like Uppy, Ash and Zahara. As your spine, like 3/4 of your spine. That's a good spine to start off with. All right, let's get to the Sharks, Tiana. Predicted lineup is Jada Taylor, Andy Robinson, Kiana Takarangi, Tiana Penitani, Anissa Biddle. Emma Tonegado moves to 6. Taylor Preston, Ali Johnston, Quincy Dodd, Rhiannon Byers, Vanessa Foliaki, Taylor Holmes, Holly Wheeler, Brooke Anderson, Fada Fihi Hanisi, Harata Butler, and you mentioned her before, Tegan Dimmick. Is she related to Jim Dimmick?
Yeah, it's his daughter.
It's his daughter?
Yeah,
oh, awesome. Yeah. I remember because I seen that Jimmy was involved with the Tongan team, was it last year or the year before?
Yeah.
And I knew that his daughter was playing for that team, so I was just making sure it was the same one. Recruits of note, obviously really big one, apart from yourself, the two really big ones that I put down, Emma Tonegado and her role moving to 6 to therefore make room for the young gun who killed it in the under-19s game last year, Jada Taylor, who was sort of behind a couple of more senior players at the Roosters. So how's Emma been going at 6, first and foremost? And what's your expectations for Jada?
Yeah, Emma's been going great. You know, she's an intelligent footballer, and she puts in so much hard work behind the scenes to really understand the role. And she's a natural player, like a natural ball player anyway. So I think the transition from 1 to 6 would be really good for her. She's a strong defender too, so she wants to be up in the front line. And she's been doing a lot of work with the likes of Nico and stuff at training as well. Like, he's been unreal, you know, cutting clips for her and doing a bit of extra work there. So
is he not the best dude ever?
He's just like such a good human, hey. Yeah, no, he's been great. All the boys at the Sharks, to be fair, have been awesome. Like Wado and even like Drew Fafita and that are down there.
He does welfare now, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Andrew,
yeah. So the boys have really gotten around the girls, which has been really nice, especially with our younger girls and like a young pack too, having the likes of them come and help us out. It's really helpful. But yeah, Em's just been doing lots of homework and just like asking lots of questions, and she looks good, you know, like
he's going to be on the same edge.
We might be.
Well, you don't want to give anything away too early. Before you play the Raiders, we're just talking about the Raiders. So,
and then like Jada Taylor at the back as well. She's so exciting for me. She's next gen. Like she's what our next generation of young female footballers looks like, and she's a little pocket rocket, but she's a little feisty thing, man. Like, she's a little pit bull, and she just cracks me up. Hey, like, she walks around with a chip on her shoulder all the time, and she's the best. Like, I love her.
We ran into her at the airport because she was doing some stuff for the NRL for the men's origin both times, and you can just tell, like, I was just having a conversation with her, like, she's got a little bit of something about
she's
her.
A little sassy thing, which is so fun. She's barking orders from the back, but no, I think she'll I hope she has a breakout year. I think she again is her standards like up here, you know. She expects the best from the players around her, and she's quite mature for her young age, and I really hope that she kind of flourishes, and she's got the right, you know, people and you know, coaching staff around her to help her become a really good footballer. So she's definitely one to watch.
Taz, over to you for Cronulla. How big a threat? Like, you guys are favourites, but how hard are Cronulla going to be to beat this year?
Yeah, they're going to be good, and we know that. Obviously, they've recruited really well to get all the girls back, but even their spine, like Jada, Emma, Taylor Preston, I'm assuming, like, and Quincy at 9, like, that's a really good spine for an inaugural team, and to get all the girls back, and they've got a lot of experience in their team, and they're going to be hard to beat for sure.
Out of all the new teams, for sure.
They're
out
of
the most
all
dangerous.
The new teams, for sure, they're the best recruited.
All right, let's go to your old team, the Broncos. So, fair few changes in this team as well. People coming and going. So, predicted lineup: Hayley Maddock, Ash Werner, Malay Hufanga, Shanae Sazolka, Julia Robinson, Gail Broughton is a big one. Ali Brigginshaw, she will partner Ali in your place. Tarryn, Chelsea Linda-Doozy, Destiny Brill, Annette Nuasala, Romy Teitzel, Tasman Gray, that's a really good back row. Mariah Denman, Jada Ferguson, Jasmine Fogavini, Hannah Larson, and Philomena Hanisi. Recruits of note, obviously, the big one is who's going to fill your role there. So do you envision, I don't know if you've had a chat to the girls, but Gail Broughton played fullback for you last year. We're Parramatta with you, Tiana. Does she take the 6 role, do you think, up there, Taz?
Yeah, well, she played there in the trial. I'm assuming she'll take the 6 role, which will be really exciting to watch. Obviously, like Emma moving from the 1 to the 6, and she seems like a very natural ball player as well. So to get her hands on the ball more, I think it'll be really good for her and for the Broncos.
And Tasman, she was at the Roosters last year? Tasman Gray, or was she with you last year?
No, she was at Titans.
Oh, okay, Titans,
yeah.
Okay.
But she was injured for the 2022 season.
Oh, okay,
so she didn't actually get to
She was outstanding in Origin, obviously, and you got the Origin back row with her and Romy Teitzel as well. So, obviously you move on, but some really good signings there for your old team.
Yeah, for sure. I think Melly as well, she played for the Kiwi Ferns in the World Cup. She was really strong there.
Yep.
And Gail's a huge one for them. And then they've got Romy, Tasman, and then they've retained a lot of players as well, like Jasmine Fogavini. She came on the scene last year and she was really good.
Yep.
And Hayley Maddock's probably my player to watch.
Okay, the fullback.
Yeah, she played there last year. I've heard she's put on a bit of weight this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's got a touch background. And yeah, some really good skills. So keen to see how she goes this year. Yeah,
she had big shoes, obviously. When you take over from Tamika Upton, and she's only slender of build, right? So she's sure. Put on a couple of kilos. Normally you don't want to say that for chicks, but in this, for NRLW, she could use with an extra a couple of kilos. So they still look strong. They're $5 with the Taz, so they're still going to be a real threat this year.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're flying under the radar a little bit for the team.
A Broncos team flying under the radar.
Yeah, a little bit for the team they've got and who they've recruited as well. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, moving on to the West Tigers. So, fullback predicted lineup: Vetty Welsh, Jakaya Whitfield, Rakia Horn, Tess Staines, Leanne Tufanga, Lasana Lutu, Emily Curtin, Sarah Togatuki, Sophie Curtin, Imogen Gobrin, Kezi Apps, Christian Bio, Nevada George, Selma Nor. Do you know who that is? No. Falau Vaki, Taylor Osborne, and Eliza Salata. So you're gonna have to help me out a little bit. Obviously, about Kezi Apps and Vetty Welsh, who was at Parramatta with you before she got injured. Was it the previous season? She missed the entire season.
Yeah, so she got injured in the 2021 season, which was the beginning of last year, and then has spent the whole year in rehab. So we had a trial against them last week, and she had her first touch. I think her first game back, and
awesome.
I just remember being on the field, just low key, go bro. It's so good to see someone like her back out there. And she's worked away quietly, behind the scenes for the last year. And it's hard. Anyone that's done an ACL would know that's brutal, to come back from. So good to see her back there. That's a huge asset for them. And I think her and Kezi Apps are sharing the leadership role there. But then Sala Togatuki as well. So she's, one of the State of Origin props, and she's won a premiership with the Roosters.
She got player of the premiership too, the grand final, didn't she?
Yeah. So she's in really good form too. I think they'll rely a lot on her in that, in their pack. And I think my player to watch, someone that's probably slept on, is Rakia Horn. She's she to me is such a beast of an athlete. She's so strong. You should see what she lifts in the gym. She's a freak, and she plays in the centres. So she came from Para.
Para with you?
She played in the right centres at Para with us. But I feel like she's someone that's slept on. So I think she'll do really well.
So this is obviously they're paying $17 with the tab. They're down the bottom. One of those teams. It's going to maybe take a while. You got your leadership there with Kezi and Bo. Brett Kamali's in charge, and he's had his fingerprints on this Harvey Norman team for a while, so that helps.
A couple of years.
But there's a few names that I'm just not familiar with in this team, so it could take a little bit for the Tigers, do you think, this year?
Yeah.
See, or how do you envision them going this year?
Definitely. Well, you look at with the expansion, and you talk about it probably could have been better to go to 8 teams rather than 10. Adding another 2 Sydney teams, I think the Tigers just don't have a lot of big names.
Yep.
And they're probably one team that you look at the depth of their squad, and there are going to be a lot of girls in their team that make their NRLW debut even in the first couple of rounds. So, yeah, we'll see. I think it might take them a little bit of time to kind of gel, but they've got someone like Kezzy Apps and Bo at the helm kind of, leading the way there. So we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah, some great leadership. All right, let's move on to your old team, the Eels. They are paying $15 with the tab to win the competition. Some big changes, some big outgoings, but got a couple of big players that come from the Dragons as well. So the Dragons lost a heap too. We'll get to them right at the end. Fullback, Abby Church, Monique Donovan on the wing with Zali Faye. I really like her.
Yeah.
Mahalia Murphy, Chantel Stowers in the centres, Puhuka Berryman Duff, Rachel Pearson, Elsie Albert, Ruben Sherrington, Ruby Jean Kennard, Amelia Murphy, Talisha O'Neill, Kennedy Sherrington, Casey Tohi Hiku, Kira Simon, Shannon Maru, Nakia Davis Welsh. Recruits of note of obviously the Dragons players, I'd say Tiana in Rachel Pearson, who was playing halves against you last year in the Origin Taz, and Elsie Albert's a beast.
Yeah, definitely. I think Kennedy and Ruben Sherrington playing in the middle. Ruben will be their hooker and Kennedy will be their lock, and I think that combination between Kennedy and Elsie Albert will be like brutal. They'll have a lot of punch in the middle there, and yeah, you're right. A massive recruit for them is Rat Pearson, who I think signed for 3 years for Parra, and she's like one of the calmest players that I've played alongside, and just an all-round great human. So they've recruited really well there, but I think some like girls that are coming back, Nakia Davis Welsh had a baby and she's had a couple of kids, and she's come back now, and she played at the Sharks with us in Harvey Norman this year, and I think the Sharks just missed out on her for her to go and sign with Parramatta. And then you've got Talisha O'Neill, who's a Jillaroo, so she went and had a baby, had a couple of years off as well. And who else? Zali Faye, she's
just going to score tries
phenomenal.
For fun, isn't she?
Yeah, she's like one of my favourite athletes to watch and to play alongside. And Mahalia Murphy as well too. So she's a Jillaroo, dual international actually. She's played for the Aussie Sevens, played Australian Wallaroos, and she's played for the Jillaroos years and years ago. So she's come back to the game and she's a beast in the centres. Like she's strong too. So I think they've got like quite a decent lineup there, and I think once they gel together, they'll be quite dangerous.
You mentioned Rachel Pearson. Rat Pearson is also the best nickname in the NRLW.
Yeah, nickname's Rat. Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the Cowboys. They are $15 with the tab. We have Fran Goldthorpe, China Palata, Jasmine Peters, Mia Middleton, Autumn Rain Stevens Daly. How good's 4 names? Kira Dibb, Tahula Tellet, April Natupuna. I should get that. Being a Māori, I should know that better. Emma Manzelman is a good signing. Sarika Muka, Tiana Strand-Smith, Shania Power, Talisha Harden, big signing. Mackenzie Weller, Shelley Long, Bree Chester, and S.A. Banu. Recruits of note, big one, championship winner in Kira Dibb, and Emma Manselman. She came off the bench for Newcastle last year. I always thought whenever she come on, she really gave them a lift at Newcastle. So they're big signings. Taz, going to you, heading back up north, the Cowboys. I guess it's sort of, you put them a little bit in the Tigers brackets. They've got some really good signings with some leadership up there in a couple of winners in Dibb and Manselman, but I'm sort of just unfamiliar with a few of these names as well here.
Yeah, they've signed a lot of young girls, but a lot of North Queensland girls as well who love the club and love the area. And obviously, Kira Dibb, Emma Menzelman and Talisha Harden, they're great leaders and they'll bring a lot of experience to a young group. But they seem like a really tight-knit group and spending a lot of time together. And they all love the club. They've speaking to them in camp about their pre-season and that they're building really well, so it'll be exciting to see. But yeah, again, the depth and the young girls, it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Of the young girls you know of, obviously Talisha played with you at Queensland level now for a couple of years at the Bronx. Any of these sort of young girls that we should watch out for?
Yeah, S.A. Banu, I'm going to say. She's my player to watch. She's a young girl coming through in the middle. She's really exciting, and in that BMD competition, she tore my tweed team apart 2 years ago. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going to say her. But I've also, speaking to Talisha, I heard Crystal Blackwell.
Okay.
I've never actually really heard of her before, but apparently she's been training the house down.
All right, beautiful. And we talked about him before, the Dragons, a heap of changes. Speaking of Selby, his team has been decimated, so shout out to Selby for his recruitment. The Dragons are $17. Fullback, she moves from the wing, Tegan Berry to fullback, so it'll be interesting to see how she goes. Taylor Mapusua, Keely Brown, Bobby Law, Shanae Lindell, we spoke about it before, Tyler Nathan Wong, if you haven't heard of her, NRLW, you're in for a treat. Racine McGregor, Angelina Tikaranga Katoa, Carla Cowan, Tara McGrath West, Sarah Sortea,
Yeah.
Roxy Murdoch Marcella, Alex Tuanee, Zali Hopkins, Jamili Bright, Madison Wetherill, Renee Target, and girls, apologies if you're just tuning in for the first time, learning a few of these names, but coming back over you, Tiana, you spent some time at the Dragons. Like I said, I was speaking to Sowie before Game 1 of Origin. They just come for the squad's been so well, without winning anything over the last couple of years. That team's been stacked, and everyone just come for that Dragons team. Recruits a note though; they get Racine McGregor, Player of the Year last year, and to join. So Paige wasn't in this predicted lineup. Is she injured?
No, so she withdrew late from the squad only recently.
Oh, really?
I think just for personal reasons.
Okay.
Yeah, she just kind of had to look after herself off the field. So she decided to kind of withdraw. Probably didn't feel like she could give what they needed. And
fair enough.
Yeah, so she's looking after herself and going to have the year off footy. But yeah, I think as you mentioned, Racine McGregor, Dalian Player of the Year last year. She's huge for them, but yeah, unfortunately for them, like their depth doesn't look as good as some other teams. And I know that they did lose a handful of Cronulla girls as well that have gone home to Cronulla. So like they're a team that have unfortunately been kind of whacked with that, you know, the downside to expansion where girls now have the opportunity to stay closer to home and play for the club that they have kind of always wanted to play for. So Sowie's done a really good job at recruiting and filling their squad. But I think someone that I'm excited to see transition from the wing to fullback is Tegan Berry. Like she's a freak. Anyone that's, you know, watched our games sees that she nearly gets like 1 or 2 intercept tries per season, and she's just like got the longest stride, and she's great. Even out of yardage, she's quite deceptive. Like there's not much of her, but she's really strong in yardage as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her. And then in the 6, Tyler Nathan Wong, seeing her transition over. I think her first ever rugby league game was in a trial last week. So it'll be
interesting. Yeah,
really
so it doesn't always like you said. So you've transitioned as well. Did you would have had a rugby league background before you started playing sevens though? Yeah,
I played rugby league when I was young, when I played in the boys comp, and then I played touch and Oztag growing up as well. So like the fundamentals were kind of there, and I know that's the same story for a lot of the girls. But for me, I played a whole season of Harvey Norman prior to making my NRLW debut. So I learnt a lot in that season. There were a couple of things that I probably did wrong, like place the ball back or something stupid like that. And
for sure,
I had a lot of learnings. So I'd be interested to see how she goes coming off the back of like not a lot of footy at lower grade and making that transition. Yeah,
so with Gail last year when she came over, I thought she was great at the back end of the season. First couple of games, obviously her kick returns are great because that's the part of rugby that you can sort of use and implement into rugby league regardless. But how long did it sort of take for did she have rugby league background?
No, but to her credit, she came and played a full season at the Mounties in Harvey Norman. So she spent that whole season learning the game. And I know, I think we played them really early on in the season, and you could just see that she was really green. And then we played them in the semi-finals at the back end of the season, and she was like such a threat. So she grew heaps in that season, and then kind of transitioned into the NRLW really nicely, and knew like fundamentals, and had like heaps better game awareness. So yeah, I think it's a really big ask, to jump in the 6 as well, which is like such a key role in the spine. But yeah, like good luck to her. I think she'll do great under Sowie as well, who was a great half in his time. So yeah.
All right, girls. Well, good luck to you girls as well. I really appreciate you coming on for us at Levels. We're not going to do every week. We'll probably do NRL. We'll do the preview. We'll do halfway through the season. Then we'll get into it in finals. But really appreciate you girls taking time out in your week leading into the season, and all the best to both of you.
Thanks you.
Thanks for having us.
As always, we want everyone to be playing safe during this footy season. So please keep front of mind, what are you really gambling with? And if you need free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.